Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm back with some new stories and I hope you enjoy them. Also guys, if you are enjoying these, please support the channel by subscribing and like, and the more stories you can see in my playlists. So I hope you have the time to look through these. And if you do subscribe, I will be back with more stories. Now, on to the first story. Story 1. I think my night terror is really a ghost. Alright, so I wrote this about having night terrors, but I no longer believe this old lady of mine who visits is just a vision of REM sleep. She now does things during the day. For instance, I hear tapping and knocking on my walls, see shadows in the corner of my eye, and at night, not only does she come near me, I can hear her whispering, like she's trying to communicate with me. I can never understand what she is saying, but I know what she wants me to hear. Yes, this just sounds like a symptom of night terror things. But what about the knocking? And what about the feeling I get when I'm alone and think I'm being watched, even when nobody is home? Also, not only is there knocking, but things are being moved in my room. For example, my journal, which I keep on top of my shelf in my closet, has now been moved twice to the floor. This journal just happens to be the one I keep my night terror notes in. I think this lady is trying to tell me that this is no nightmare and that she is present and trying to communicate with me. Listen, I know it might sound nuts, but I really think this lady is a disturbed spirit of some kind. I've always had a sixth sense like that, even as a child. Like, when I was the age of 4, I began to hear this old-fashioned music from the 1900s. But as a child, I had never heard or known of this kind of music before. My mom and other siblings never heard it, but I did. And also, keep in mind, I listened to only my mom's rock 80s music, Eminem and Disney songs. So, how would my mind even be able to conjure up music like that? When I was older, I found out that about a year and a half to 2 years before my family moved in, there was an old man who passed away of cancer in his own home. I spoke to the family and found out they played his favourite song, I Ain't Got Nobody. They played it for me, and it just brought back memories to me of childhood, of hearing this song when no one else could. Okay, so all I'm saying now is that this spirit is latched onto me, either me or the house, and I have no clue how to help her. She seems distressed and hungry, but not really at me. I just wish there was a way to help her go through. That story is from Renegade Dork. Any of you think Gary can help, comment below. Story 2. Something crept into my husband's side of the bed. I'm not sure what to believe anymore. I'm sure that I didn't imagine this, and I'm sure that what I heard, felt, really happened. So, just a little backstory. My husband and I moved into the house a few months ago, in May. I'll refer to him as Mark. Ended up getting a great job opportunity, so we packed up all our things and headed west. Things were going great, actually. Everything was absolutely normal. We didn't move into some ancient house with a dark past. We moved into a small single family home in a freaking cul-de-sac. Mark went to work, as he did, 9 to 5 schedule, and I was able to do work from home. He'll get home a little after 5:30. We'll have dinner, and then we'll relax until we head to sleep. Once it's 10 p.m, I'm already extremely sleepy, so I usually lie in the bed and flip through my phone for an hour, then I usually fall right to sleep. My husband is a night owl. He has issues with sleeping, so he usually stays up late. I'm pretty light sleeper, so whenever he finally decides to go to sleep, I usually wake up the moment I hear him go to bed. Mark always follows a routine. Before going to bed, he clicks off the TV in the living room, checks the locks, turns off the lights, goes into our bedroom and brushes his teeth, slips into bed, then kisses me before finally drifting to sleep. We live a pretty mundane lifestyle until a month ago. Something happened to me. It was an average day. All I did was clean and go to the store to get groceries. Later on, I had prepared dinner. Mark came home. We talked about our day. Everything was absolutely normal. The only odd thing was Mark complained that the juice I brought for him had tasted funny. It was around 10 p.m. and I started to feel exhausted, so I did my usually and fall asleep. I wasn't sure what time it was when I suddenly awoke by a noise of heavy footsteps coming from the living room. Usually Mark is a bit quieter when coming to bed, but I brushed it off. Heavy thuds approaching the bedroom door, and I heard it slowly creak open. I was feeling a bit frustrated as he knew I was a light sleeper, but I tried my best to ignore it and try to fall asleep. I heard a click from the light switch in our bathroom, and the faucet squeak, followed by a light trickle of water. I don't know why. I started to feel so damn uneasy. Usually Mark would wake me up a bit during the night, and I'd fall right back to sleep. But something felt off. The way our bedroom is set up from the entrance to our bedroom is a straight shot to the window. Our bed is on that wall. Then on the left side is the door to the bathroom. My back was facing the bathroom, so when the light came on, I saw on the wall Mark's shadow casted onto it. As I studied the shadow, perhaps it was lack of sleep or my eyes playing tricks on me, but it didn't look like Mark. Now my husband is average height and a bit wide. He fits the dad bod category. The shadow I saw was a tall, slender, with arms seemingly longer, like they would have touched the ground. I didn't hear a sound from him brushing his teeth, just a slow trickling of water, a deep gurgled breathing echoing from the bathroom. I finally froze and thought to myself, maybe this wasn't my husband. The faucet slowly squeaked to a halt, the gurgled breath still emanating from behind me. The light switch clicked off. Then I heard the heavy thuds of feet go towards our bed. Towards me I froze still, and I tried to keep my breath from shaking. I kept thinking to myself that this was just me being tired and maybe I'm overthinking things. My husband is just doing his usual going to bed. I felt the comforter on my rise a bit as my body slumped onto the bed. I felt the comforter on my rise a bit as the body slumped onto the bed. The weight of it caused the frame to creak and groan. Something much larger than my husband was creeping into bed with me. I could feel my body shift as whatever it was put what I assumed was his whole body weight onto the bed. I kept my eyes tight shut as I kept my breath low and shallow, trying not to scream. trying not to alert this thing that I was awake. This thing's guttural and gurgled breath was right behind my skull. I heard the sound of something breaking and crackling from above, then suddenly felt something drop in front of me. I cracked my eyes open to see an extremely long, thin limb with a large rake-like fingers in front of me that bent and stretched from behind me. It was red and glistened in the moonlight that peered through my window. It was as whatever it was had no skin. My vision began to blur as tears formed in my eyes. Don't cry, don't cry, don't fucking scream, I thought to myself over and over. Where was my husband? Where the hell was Mark? Did this thing? I didn't want to finish that thought. I felt its weight begin to shift again, shift towards me. Again I heard this disgusting noise of breaking and cracking from behind me. Nausea started to overtake me, but I held my vomit in my stomach. The deep and wet gurgled breath inched its way closer to my face. I could feel hot moist hit my skin. I heard it. I heard the sound of it open its mouth, wider and wider, as droplets of its saliva descended over my head. Something hot and wet being slivered onto my cheek, and that was when I began to fully sob. I slowly slid my eyes to the corner of the sockets and looked at it. It was red and fleshy. It had no eyes, just dark sockets. Its mouth was a black abyss that stretched open with rows of sharp teeth and a wiggling tongue. I stared at it for a moment and finally let out an ear-shattering scream that echoed throughout my home. I shouted at the top of my lungs, "Mark!" But there was no answer. I wanted to get up. I wanted so desperately to run out of that fucking room, but I was frozen in absolute fear. I fully realised how immense this thing was. Its limbs stretched over me like some kind of giant skinless spider. My scream was cut short when I heard its breath turned into a deep and low laugh. I revealed in my despair, in my helplessness, and I didn't know what else to do. I had nothing else to do but accept whatever it had in store for me. I looked at me and I fucking smiled. A wide razor-tooth smile. My heart was beating like crazy, like it was trying to burst out my chest. I feel unconscious. I don't know what else happened, but I passed out. I woke up the next morning. I was completely drenched in sweat and embarrassed to say that my bed was completely soaked in my urine. I slowly got out of bed. I felt so sick, so horrible. I crept over to my living room. Each of my footsteps echoed like thunder in my skull. I turned to the corner and on the couch asleep. So peaceful was my husband, Mark. My knees gave out and I collapsed to the floor. Mark shot right up and looked over to see the state that I was in. Mark insisted that I go to hospital. I was so pale and in a cold sweat, but I didn't want anything else but for him to just hold me, reassure me that I was safe. And that was real. A few hours later, I told him my dream, and I was completely disturbed to say the least. He was worried, so he took me to the doctor's office. After a short wait, I was finally let in to see my doctor. I avoided telling him about my dream, but I did tell him how sick I was feeling. The doctor ran a few tests. I was so anxious, but Mark held my hand the entire time. The results came back, and I was completely in shock. I was listening to the doctor talk to and Mark. I looked at him, and he was smiling from ear to ear. Everything sounded like muffled white noise. But the one thing the doctor said hit me. I'm pregnant. Mark carefully lifted me up and embraced me as the doctor patted his shoulders, congratulating him. The whole car ride home, Mark went on and on about baby stuff, and I just didn't know what to say. So here's the thing. I never told Mark. I never told him because I was afraid that he would be disappointed and leave me. I cannot have children. I have polycystic ovary syndrome. I know I cannot have children. Now, a month later, I'm so afraid to go to sleep. I stay up with Mark until he finally goes to bed, no matter what. He's so excited about the baby, but I don't even know what the hell is inside me. A few days ago, while Mark was in work, I went to the doctor's to get an ultrasound. Needless to say, I was shocked when the doctor said everything was normal. But when he turned away, I looked at the screen and saw whatever this thing inside me is. For a split second, I saw the limbs stretch and grow.